Hey, good morning. We're glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Men and women that want to know Yehovah's word the way it was meant to be taught. You know, that's a pretty bold way to say this. But I see it every day. There are things that I have found in Torah that I don't see any other teacher that can teach you what I know. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're joining me today. Thank you so much. Well, we finished Deuteronomy last week. We're going to finish Yasher today. And we're going to we are going to get through 2 chapters of Joshua. 2, I think, very important chapters because, why are they important, Michael? They're important because they give us a shadow picture of what we can expect in these last days. Are you interested in what we should expect in these last days? Do you want to be prepared, especially you men? Do you want to be prepared for what Yehovah has for us in these last days? Well, we're going to talk a bit about that today. We talked about that last week as well, but we're going to see it more today. Let's go on. I want to do a review of what we talked about last week. And I'm going to start in verse 5. Remember, this was a really short chapter, only 12 verses, Deuteronomy 34. It starts like this. So, my New King James, you know, you can't trust, there's not a good translation out there. My New King James says, so the servant of Yehovah died there in the land of Moab according to the word of Yehovah. Well, a couple things I wanted to mention here. It doesn't say the servant. It says so. Moses, a servant of Yehovah, died there. Why is that important? Can you see that there may be something going on here of importance? These definite articles, they are destructive to much of our thinking. You wouldn't think a the could be a problem. After all, it's just a little definite article. One Hebrew letter. The word there is aved. Aved, servant. Not ha-aved. There's no ha. It says Moses, a servant of Yehovah, died there. Why is it important? Here's why I think it's important. Because Moses is not the servant. He is a servant of Yehovah. Yehovah is supposed to have lots of servants. Moses was one of them. But right now, Yehovah is raising up his servants, his avadim, plural form of servants. You, men, can be one of the avadim. You can be an aved of Yehovah, a servant of Yehovah. But you can't do that unless you leave the kingdom of your birth and who you're serving right now. Open your wallet. You'll see who you're serving right now. Well, let's not dwell on that too long. I want to also see at the end of this verse, it said, so Moses, a servant of Yehovah, died there in the land of Moab according to the word of Yehovah. According to the word of Yehovah. Everything happens according to the word of Yehovah. If you're going to organize your life so it's not in accordance with the word of Yehovah, you're building on a bad foundation and you're going to be destroyed. Don't take this lightly. Everything happens according to the word of Yehovah. That's why it's so important that we know his word. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about in this chapter was in verse 10. It says, "But since then there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom Yehovah knew face to face. As I have said many times, the servants." Oh, isn't that interesting? That we even call them the servants, the Avadim. There it is again. Yehovah is raising up 144,000-ish Avadim, servants who he can learn to know face to face. That's who he's raising up in the last days. Moses is only a shadow picture of what we're going to see happen in these last days. There are going to be lots of servants of Yehovah that he will use in these last days to draw men to him, like he used Moses to draw men to him in that specific location, Israel. Now he's scattered us all over the earth, and he's raising up those dead bones in these last days. They are going to be the prophet like Moses. It's the plural he. It's Israel. We've seen the plural he over and over and over again. This is our last class. We'll talk about it many, many more times as we begin Genesis 1 next week. But this prophet, like Moses, is the male child, the one that we are waiting for. And you know, I got to tell you, we're always talking about the Messiah coming. I'm so sick of hearing about the Messiah coming. Where? Show me one place in Torah where it talks about a Messiah, a Mashiach, an anointed one coming. Folks, it's not there. It's the male child that's coming to deliver Israel the second time, just like Moses did. We have been so programmed because all we've ever learned is the stupid New Testament commentaries. We don't even know the truth. We can't even see the truth. We don't know what it takes to be a HaMashiach. You can only be a HaMashiach priest or a HaMashiach king. Well, we've talked about that a lot as well. It's in my writings. You can read it. But right now, Yehovah is raising up these dead bones, these set-apart men. They are coming to him every Passover. Happened again last week. This day, last week, men came to him and became his Ezra, Israel, true Israel, his son, the heir of the kingdom. The earth is Yehovah's and all those who dwell in it. Well, we went on and we talked about Yasher. We saw that Joshua, after we crossed the Jordan, we circumcised our men. We're going to talk about that today. We came and conquered Jericho. We're going to talk about that today. And then we began an assault on the land of Canaan. We are taking it for ourselves, and we're going to take the whole world for ourselves in these last days. We went to the south first. Let me pull up my map. We went to some of these cities: Ekron, Timnah. We went to Lachish. Where's Lachish? There's Lachish. And Libnah. There's Libnah. We went to Hebron. We took the south for ourselves, and then we went back to Gilgal. Here's Gilgal, just the northeast corner of Jericho. Home base right now where the tabernacle's at. That was pretty much the conquest of the south. That's kind of the word I was looking for, conquest. Yeah, we're going on a conquest. We're going to take the world for Yehovah. Not just Israel. We're going to take the whole world for Yehovah in these last days. This is just a shadow picture of what we can expect. So let's go back to Yasher. I want to just review, and then we're going to finish Yasher. There's only about 9 pages left, and we're not even going to read the whole 9. Here it is. It says, "And Joshua smote the kings of the Amorites from Kadesh Barnea," which is even further south than what I was showing you just now. It's way south. "And he took to Azah." I couldn't find Azah. "And he took their country at once. For Yehovah had fought for Israel." He's going to do it again. Remember, there was many kings that came to us last week to fight against us with chariots and horses. Remember that? We hamstrung the horses, burned the chariots. We don't have those. Didn't have any horses. Didn't have any chariots. Don't need them. We have Yehovah to fight for us. We don't need tanks, don't need helicopters, don't need military intelligence. So we came to Gilgal. It says, "And Joshua and all Israel came to camp to Gilgal. When at that time Jabin, king of Hazor, heard all that Joshua had done to the kings of the Amorites." This same king, Jabin, sent to Yavat, king of Midian. We're getting the Midianites involved again. You think they haven't had enough? Geez, are they a glutton for punishment? We just wiped them out at the end of Numbers. And now they have the nerve to come back at us again. Will they never learn? Remember, we took all their virgins. Maybe they're still ticked, but they don't learn very well. He got Laban, king of Shimron, Japhal, king of Achshaph, and all the kings of the Amorites, saying, "Come quickly to us, help us, that we might smite Israel's seed before they come upon us, and do unto us as they have done to the other kings of the Amorites." And all these kings hearkened to the word of Jabin, king of Hazor. Let me show you where this is. See, this says CH. It's a het, but it gets transliterated many times as CH or simply H. Here it is up here. Let me just go to this. I want to show you where these kingdoms are at. They're up north of Sea of Galilee. Here's Hazor. Here's Achshaph. And down here is Shimron. This is where we're at. We're attacking now the kingdoms of the north. They're coming against us. And all the kings hearkened to the words of Jevon, king of Hazar. And they went forth with all their camps, 17 kings. And their people were as numerous as the sands of the seashore. Oh, do you think we're going to see armies coming against us in these last days that are as the sands of the seashore? You know, they'll come with us. They'll come at us small first, thinking, we can deal with these guys, just like we dealt with those guys in, what are some of those places where they've attacked compounds? No. Literally, places in the United States. I can't even think of one right now.
Waco, Texas.
Yeah, Waco. Those kinds of places. Okay, they're going to look at us in each one. Remember, this is where the pillar of fire's at. This is where the people are coming to us. They're going to treat us like Waco. Just send in a few troops. And they're going to see, whoa, we got problems. 17 kings. And their people as numerous as the sands of the seashore, together with horses and chariots. Oh, this is the horses and the chariots. This is what we were talking about last week. I was thinking that was in the south. That was in the north. Well, here it is. And Joshua, well, let me finish reading it. Horses and chariots innumerable. And they came and pitched together at the waters of Merom. And they met together to fight against Israel. Israel, we're talking about men. Ezra men with their servants and the Ger who dwell with them. And Yehovah said to Joshua, fear them not, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver them up slain before you. Thou shalt hew their horses and burn their chariots with fire. We were talking about hamstringing. And Joshua, with all the men of war, came suddenly upon them and smote them. And they fell into their hands, for Yehovah had delivered them into the hands of Israel's seed. So Israel's seed pursued these kings with their camps and smote them until there was none left of them. And Joshua did to them as Yehovah had spoken to him. So here's all these kings that came together. They were coming against us. But it sounds like we came to them. No fear in us. But now we're going to take their cities. And Joshua returned at that time to Hazar and smote it with the sword, destroyed every soul in it, burned it with fire. And from Hazar, Joshua passed to Shimron and smote it and utterly destroyed it. From there he passed to Akshaph, and he did to it as he had done to Shimron. And from there he passed to Adullam. I could not find that. And he smote all the people in it. And he did to Adullam as he had done to Akshaph and Shimron. And he passed from all the cities of the kings which he had smitten. And he smote all the people that were left in them, and he utterly destroyed them. This is what we're going to do in the last days. Only their booty and cattle the Israelites took to themselves as prey, but every human being they smote. This is what we did in the south. Man, woman, children, young, old, everybody dies. You don't join us? Do we think Elohim is unfair? Is that what you think? There's people out there that think, oh, God's not fair. No, he's given everybody a chance to organize their life according to the way they're supposed to live. Remember, it's different for a man than it is for a woman. We've got a whole world of women right now that are uncovered. Most of the world of men is serving other Elohim, other lawmakers and judges. You don't come to us, submit yourself to us, and become our servants. I'm talking about the 144,000 servants who are like Moses. Bow down to them and serve them. You will perish. But wouldn't you rather be one of them? You can. It's not too late. Second Passover is only a month away. Less than a month. You can still do it. Repent. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till next year. And you better hope that Yehovah doesn't raise up his men on Shavuot this year. Pentecost. The Feast of Weeks. Because that's when he's going to do it. That's when the pillars of fire are going to appear. Remember, the nation born in a day is unknown. We don't know when that nation is. Did it happen this year? I don't think so. But we'll know for sure on Pentecost, on Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. Only their booty, the cattle, the Israelites took for themselves as prey. But every human being they smote. They suffered not a soul to live. When Yehovah destroyed the earth the first time with water, was he unfair? There was one man, Noah. One man who walked with Yehovah. And it was him and his family, 7 other people with him, who were saved because Noah walked with Elohim. This is how it's going to be in the last days. There's going to be the servants who walk with Yehovah. And everyone who will join themselves to those men and submit themselves to them can be saved. Failure to do that is going to get you destroyed. In my mind, that's second best. I want to be one of the great ones. I don't want to be one of the servants of the great ones. I will, but I'd rather be one of the great ones. Well, if you're a woman, you've got to be a servant to one of the great ones. You can't be one of the great ones. Well, let's continue. As Yehovah commanded Moses, so did Joshua and all Israel. They failed not in anything. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. So Joshua and Israel's seed smote the whole land of Canaan, as Yehovah had commanded them, and smote all the kings, being 31 kings. And Israel's seed took their whole country, besides the kingdoms of Sihon and Og, which were on the other sides of the Jordan, of which Moses had smitten many cities. And Moses gave them to the Reubenites and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh. And Joshua smote all the kings that were on this side of the Jordan, to the west. You know what? Moses was intended to be the one who smote all the kings on this side of the Jordan also. But Moses let his flesh get a hold of his actions. And instead of speaking to that rock, we talked about it last week or the week before, I think it was the week before. He hit the rock with the rod instead of using the rod of his mouth. For 5 years did Joshua carry on the war. with these kings, and he gave their cities to the Israelites. And the land became tranquil from battle throughout the cities of the Amorites and the Canaanites. That seems to me what the last verse of Torah was. And all the mighty powers and the great terror which Moses performed. No. Where did I see that? I remember reading that. Maybe it was the end of the following chapter. Let's take a quick look. I always am happy to see this. And Israel shall dwell safely. There it is. Everybody's dead. When everybody's dead, Israel will dwell safely. The fountain of Jacob alone in the land of grain and new wine. His heaven shall drop dew. Happy are you, O Israel. Who is like you? A people saved of Yehovah. A shield of your help, a sword of your majesty. Your enemies shall submit to you, and you shall tread down their high places. Well, you know what? It's actually going to be worse in these last days. Why? It's going to be worse because we're not going to leave anybody alive. We're going to take everybody out. We're taking the whole world for our own. Well, this says that I'm supposed to skip down to verse 12. There are some things in Yasher that I've kind of ignored. This business about Katim and Edom. It gets confusing sometimes. I want to stay on task with learning Torah and how this relates to Torah. It says, in those days, after Israel's seed had driven away all the Canaanites and the Amorites, Joshua was old and advanced in years. And Yehovah said to Joshua, thou art old and advanced in life, and a great part of the land remains to be possessed. Now therefore divide the land for the inheritance of the 9 tribes to the half tribe of Manasseh. And Joshua rose up and did as Yehovah had spoken to him. He divided the whole land to the tribes of Israel as an inheritance according to their divisions. Who's he giving the land to? The Ezra men are the ones who are going to possess the land. Their servants, their ger, are not going to get any land. And he divided the land to the tribes of Israel as an inheritance according to the divisions. But to the tribe of Levi he gave no inheritance. Look what it says. The offerings of Yehovah are their inheritance, as Yehovah had spoken to them by the hands of Moses. We saw lots of problems in Deuteronomy. We saw Israel eating their tithes, eating their bekor, the firstborn of the herb and the firstborn of the flocks. Shame on us. How does something like that even get into Torah? I don't understand it. Everywhere else, the offerings went to the Levites. Remember, priests are Levites. Some of the things went to the priests. All the offerings went to Levi. Either Levites or the priests. And Joshua gave Mount Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, one portion above his brethren, as Yehovah had spoken through Moses. Therefore Hebron became an inheritance to Caleb and his sons. Until this day, ladies don't own land. Men own land. The sons of the Ezra men own the land. And Joshua divided the whole land by lots. Ooh, I think that's so cool that it's done by lots. Can you imagine how that would look? We would have I've got his pens right now, but we would have pens, whatever, these would be
straws.
these would be straws. We're going to say the lot that we're choosing for now is for this portion, this parcel over here, from this city to this city, and from the sea to this city. And we would close our eyes, we would draw the straw, and we would see whose name was on the straw. Why do we do it by lot? We do it by lot to get Yehovah's will. You can't argue with a lot. There's no favoritism. That's why we use lots. And I think lots is something that we should use in our families a lot more. It stops problems from occurring. This is how he divided the land. So Joshua divided the land by lots to all of Israel for an inheritance, as Yehovah commanded him. And Israel's seed gave cities to the Levites. That's what they're supposed to do, from their own inheritance, and suburbs for their cattle and property. Remember, they had the surrounding area. I think it was 1,000 cubits in each direction from the cities. That's suburbs for the cattle and property. And as Yehovah had commanded Moses, so did Israel's seed. And they divided the land by lot, whether great or small. And they went to inherit the land according to their boundaries. And Israel's seed gave to Joshua, the son of Nun, an inheritance amongst them. By the word of Yehovah did they give to him the city which he required, Timnah Serach in Ephraim. And he built the city and dwelt therein. Where's that city? I always like to know where these cities are. I think it will help you also to know where these cities are. Here's Gilgal, down here. Gilgal. Shiloh. We're going to talk about Shiloh in just a moment. And here's Timnah Serach. Timnah Serach. Again, they use an H. They transliterate it as an H, but it says the CH. Timnah Serach. Kind of a guttural sound. That's where it's at. These are the inheritances which Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes portioned out to Israel's seed by lot in Shiloh. That's where they did it, was in Shiloh. That's why I just showed you Shiloh. Before Yehovah at the door of the tabernacle. And they left off dividing the land. Oh, look, did they move the tabernacle to Shiloh? It looks like maybe they did. Remember, it was in Gilgal. But look who did it. Eleazar the priest. He's the high priest. And Joshua. And the heads, the fathers of the tribes. No room for error. No room for argument. Everything is done fairly out and in the open. And Yehovah gave the land to the Israelites, and they possessed it as Yehovah had spoken to them, and as Yehovah had sworn to their ancestors. We have about 4 pages left. And Yehovah gave the Israelites rest from all their enemies around them. That's kind of where we were at just now when I was reading to you about having peace. And no man stood up against them. And Yehovah delivered all their enemies into their hands. Not one thing failed of all the good which Yehovah had spoken to Israel's seed. Yea, Yehovah performed everything. Did you hear that? everything is going to happen according to the word of Yehovah. Folks, I'm trying to inspire you to learn the words of Yehovah. Most of us have learned the doctrines and traditions of men. We know it well. But we've never taken time to learn the word of Yehovah. We must do that. And Joshua called to all Israel's seed, and he blessed them and commanded them to serve Yehovah, as he afterwards sent them away, and they went each man to his city, and each man to his inheritance. These men have ladies in their lives, women in their lives, servants in their lives, male and female. They have ger who have men or who have women in their lives and children in their lives. But these men, Israel, are the ones who are going to get the land. And Israel's seed served Yehovah all the days of Joshua. And Yehovah gave them rest from all around them. And they dwelt securely in their cities. This is what it's going to be like in the millennial kingdom. We're going to take this whole world for ourselves. Anyone who won't serve us is going to die. And we are going to live in peace. Each man under his own tree. So skip to 32. And it was in the 26th year after Israel's seed had passed the Jordan. 26 years since we've passed over the Jordan. That in the 66th year after Israel's seed had departed from Egypt, 26 plus 40, 66, that Joshua was old, advanced in years, being 180 years old in those days. And Joshua called to all Israel. Who's he calling? The Ezra men. That's right. To their elders, their judges, their officers, after Yehovah had given all the Israelites rest from their enemies round about. And Joshua said to the elders of Israel and to their judges, behold, I'm old, advanced in years, and you have seen what Yehovah has done to all the nations whom he has driven away from before you. For it is Yehovah who has fought for you. Now therefore strengthen yourselves to keep and to do all the words of Torah of Moses, the instructions of Moses. Do not deviate from it to the right or to the left. And do not come amongst those nations who are left in the land. Neither shall you make mention of the names of their Elohim, Obamas of this world. They're the Elohim. But you shall cleave to Yehovah, your Elohim, your lawmaker and judge, as you have done to this day. And Joshua greatly exhorted Israel's seed to serve Yehovah all their days. And the Israelites said, we will serve Yehovah, our Elohim, all our days. We and our sons and our sons' sons and our seed forever. Oh, isn't that enlightening? Look at what it says. Sons, it says children, please. No, this is Banim, and the Banim's Banim. And our seed, our Zerah, forever. Who's saying this? It's the Israelites, all the Israelites, the spiritually born men. This is why I call them Israel's seed. B'nai Israel is not just the sons of these men. It's the seed. It's the spiritual seed that goes down through the generations. Oh, this is just so neat to see. I mean, most people wouldn't even appreciate seeing sons, and our seed forever. They wouldn't appreciate it. They don't get it. But we're talking about seed. We're talking about spiritually born men. And Joshua made a covenant with the people on that day. And he sent away Israel's seed. And they went, who's the seed? Each man to his inheritance and to his city. Ger don't own city, servants don't own city, sons don't own city. Ezra, men own the city. And it was in those days when Israel's seed were dwelling securely in their cities that they buried the coffins of the tribes of their ancestors. Wow, that took a long time. How long have they been in here? 26 years, didn't they say? Yeah. 26 years. And we're just now finally going to bury the coffins of these men, the actual sons of Jacob, which they brought up from Egypt. Each man in the inheritance of his sons. The 12 sons of Jacob did the sons of Israel bury. Each man in the possession of his sons. Folks, this is not about the ladies. We don't understand the role of a woman in Yehovah's kingdom. Well, I hope that those of you who have been with me for so long do understand the role of a woman in Yehovah's kingdom. Most don't. And these are the names of the cities wherein they buried the 12 sons of Jacob, whom Israel's seed had brought up from Egypt. Well, it's hardly worth reading this at this point. I think I want to continue. Let me just skip down here. We don't need to know where all these guys were buried. I think it's interesting. Joseph was buried in Shechem. Remember, Shechem was the place where Jacob had purchased the land from Hamor, who was the father of Shechem, which became to Joseph for an inheritance. Benjamin got Jerusalem, or was buried in Jerusalem. All right, I'll pick it up here. And at the end of 2 years, Joshua the son of Nun died, 110 years old. And the time which Joshua served Israel was 28 years. And Israel served Yehovah all the days of his life. They had a good leader in Israel that kept them on task. The leadership's going to wane after this. And the other affairs of Joshua and his battles and his reproofs, which he reproved Israel, and all which he commanded them, and the names of the cities which Israel's seed possessed in his days, behold, they are written in the book of the words of Joshua to the children, to Israel's seed, and the book of wars of Yehovah, which Moses and Joshua and Israel's seed had written. And Israel's seed buried Joshua in the border of his inheritance. There it is, in Timnah Serah, which was given to him in Mount Ephraim. And Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died in those days, and they buried him in the hill belonging to Phinehas, his son, which was given him in Mount Ephraim. Just a pinch more left. At that time, and after the death of Joshua, Israel, the seed of the Canaanites, were still in the land. And the Israelites resolved to drive them out. And the seed of Israel asked of Yehovah, saying, Who shall go first? Who shall first go up for us to the Canaanites to fight against them? And Yehovah said, Judah shall go up. And the seed of Judah said to Simeon, Go up with us into our lots. Go to the place where we got, and we will fight against the Canaanites, and we will likewise go up with you in your lot. So the seed of Simeon went with the seed of Judah. You know, it's a trick learning how to read the scriptures as they're meant to be read. It's harder in Yasher because we don't have the Hebrew. Actually, I do. It's just really, really hard to use. There's no numbers in it at all. And I've got to be a much better Hebrew reader before I can really utilize it well. But I know what words are being used here because I know the Torah. I know what words were used in the Torah. And Judah's seed went up and fought against the Canaanites. So Yehovah delivered the Canaanites into the hands of Judah's seed. Then they smote them in Bezek, 10,000 men. And they fought with Adonibezek in Bezek. Adonibezek, so the master of Bezek, in Bezek. And he fled from before them, and they pursued him and caught him, and they took hold of him, cut off his thumbs and his great toes. And Adonibezek said 70 kings having their thumbs and great toes cut off, gathered their meat under my table. As I have done, so Elohim has requited me. He's paid me back. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And the seed of Simeon went with the seed of Judah, and they smote the Canaanites with the edge of the sword. And Yehovah was with Judah's seed, and they possessed the mountains. And the seed of Joseph went to Bethel, the same as Luz. And Yehovah was with them. And Joseph's seed spied out Bethel. And the watchmen saw a man going forth from the city, and they caught him, and said unto him, Show us the entrance of this city, and we will show kindness to thee. And the man showed them the entrance of the city. And Joseph's seed came and smote the city with the edge of the sword. Let me just say that again, since I had that down so low. It sometimes helps with the editing process. And the men with their families they sent away, and he went to the Hittites and built a city and called the name thereof Luz. So all the Israelites dwelt in their cities, and Israel's seed dwelt in their cities. And Israel's seed served Yehovah all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders who had lengthened their days after Joshua, and saw the great work of Yehovah which he performed for Israel. And the elders judged Israel after the death of Joshua. The elders. 12 elders judging Israel after the death of Joshua for 17 years. And all the elders also fought the battles of Israel against the Canaanites. And Yehovah drove the Canaanites from before Israel's seed in order to place the Israelites in their land. And he accomplished all the words which he had spoken to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the oath which he had sworn to give them and their seed, the land of the Canaanites. And Yehovah gave Israel's seed the whole land of Canaan. You know what? This is so interesting. We're talking about the end of the book. Yehovah performing his words. What did he promise Abraham? The land and the seed. The land and the seed. And here it is, to give them their seed. The land of the Canaanites. Folks, this is what we're talking about right now, only on the grand scale. He's raising up seed right now to take the whole earth for himself. And Yehovah gave Israel's seed the whole land of Canaan, as he had sworn to their ancestors. And Yehovah gave them rest from those around them. And Israel's seed dwelt securely in their cities. Isn't that what it's all about? A man being able to rest under his own fruit tree. That's what I'm working for. You know what? I'm poor in this world, but in the next, I want to be great. I want to be rich. It's all about knowing Yehovah. Blessed be Yehovah forever. Blessed be you, Yehovah, forever. What did the people say? Amen. Amen. Strengthen yourselves and let the hearts of all you that trust in Yehovah be of good courage. Remember, we talked about being of good courage meant what? Being sure to do all the words of Yehovah. I said, amen. Well, that's Yasher. I love the book of Yasher. We have learned and seen so many new things because of this book. Things that would have gone right over our heads in Torah. Things I saw in Torah many times, but never saw it. I was blind. Yasher helped me to see the truth of Torah. We're going to do it again. Again, Yasher doesn't have much to say on the creation of man, creation of woman, the fall. But Yasher picks up about chapter 5 or chapter 6 of Genesis, as I recall. But before we close this 3 years of study, let's just see this. The end. Before we close this 3 years of study, I want to take you to Joshua 4. And I want to read, how much time we got? Oh, good, we got an hour. I want to read part of 4, all of 5, all of 6. Why? Again, it's about the shadow pictures. As Moses was used to bring people out of Egypt and into the promised land, remember, he was supposed to do it. He just disobeyed and he didn't get to do it. But he was supposed to do it. So get that thought out of your mind. The men that he's raising up now, the prophet like Moses, is going to bring Israel out of Egypt because they've already come out of Egypt. And now they are going to go in to the promised land. They're going to be the ones who did what Joshua did, that Moses was supposed to do. It's going to be amazing to see. What does it say? Jeremiah 16, something like this. No longer will they say, great is Yehovah who brought Israel's seed out of the land of Egypt, but great is Yehovah who brought Israel's seed out of all the places where he had scattered them. No, we're going to see this again. So let's turn to Joshua. I already went there. And I want to pick up in 14. Now the people. The people. Who are the people? You know what? It's the untrained mind, the untrained eyes sees this word people and right away assumes what? Everybody in Israel. Men, women, children, ger, servants. Okay? That is not who we are talking about. We are talking about the spiritually born men, Israel. Israel's seed. The ones who are going to lead each of their families, all of their servants, and the ger who dwell with them. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. 10th day of the first month. What happens on the 10th day of the first month? Gary says it's the day that we select our sheep or our goats. As we say, it's synonymous, our synchronous together. Then he spoke to Israel's seed. No, I guess I skipped a verse here. First, 10th day. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, the month of Aviv. And they camped at Gilgal. We saw where Gilgal is, on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out from the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Ooh, I found something interesting. Where did I see it yesterday? These 12 stones, I pictured a pile of rocks. Remember, there was one stone taken from the river where they crossed for each of the tribes. But in one of the things that I was reading yesterday, it suggested that these 12 rocks became part of a great circle that the head elders of Israel's seed met at when they discussed business regarding Israel. I thought, oh, that is very interesting, and that explains one of the words. We're going to see it today. I think we'll find it in this area. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. Then he spoke to Israel's seed, saying, when your sons ask their fathers, again, we're talking about the role of a man and the role of a woman. Men teach their sons and their sons' sons, all their seed, the ways of Yehovah. Men keep the Torah. Men obey Yehovah. Well, the Ezra men. The servants obey the Ezra men. The ger obey the Ezra men, but the ger are being taught also like the sons to become Ezra. But it's not about the ladies. The ladies always obey their man. No man, no relationship with Yehovah. You've got to have a man in your life, ladies. Does a lady go into the temple? Can a lady slaughter the shalamim for their family to eat? No! Who picked up the manna in the wilderness? The Ezra men were the ones who picked up the manna. Oh, it's so much bigger of a picture than you ever imagine. He says, then you shall dwell, let your sons know, saying, Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry land. What do they say? What do these stones mean? For Yehovah, your Elohim. There's the context clues talking about the Ezra men. For Yehovah, your Elohim, dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. And Yehovah, your Elohim. Okay, he's not talking about the ladies. The Elohim of the ladies is their man. The Elohim of the servants is their master. As Yehovah, your Elohim, did to the Red Sea. Hear that? For Yehovah, your Elohim, dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as Yehovah, your Elohim, did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over. That all the peoples of the earth, now we're talking about all the peoples of the earth. Here, let me take a look at this. Come on. I didn't have a note on that one. All the peoples of the earth. Here it is. Call peoples, all the earth's peoples. All the earth's people. That's what we're talking about. May know the hand of Yehovah, that it is mighty, that you may fear Yehovah, your Elohim, forever. That was the end of 4. Now we're going to fight Jericho. I think that's in this one. No, we've got to do something else first. Something very important. Ooh, this is what I want you to see. So it was all the kings of the Amorites who were on the west side of the Jordan, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea. So we just beat Og, king of Bashan, Sihon, king of the Amorites, kind of a lesser king, but still an Amorite king. And now the kings of the Amorites, who are on the west side of the Jordan. Okay, the west side of the Jordan versus the east side of the Jordan. We already got that land. Now we're going to go to the west side of the Jordan. And the kings of the Canaanites, who are by the sea, heard that Yehovah had dried the waters of the Jordan. Oh no! From before Israel's seed until we had crossed over, that their hearts melted, and there was no spirit in them any longer because of Israel's seed. Well, look at this. It says, at that time, Yehovah said to Joshua, make flint knives for yourselves. Circumcise Israel's seed again, a second time. Can you be circumcised more than once? No, these are new people, right? We're talking about Israel's seed. You know, sometimes we call what is, even though it's not yet. He said, Israel is my son, my firstborn. Let Israel go that he may serve me. That's what he told Pharaoh. Moses told that to Pharaoh. Let Israel go that he may serve me. Well, Israel wasn't Israel yet. They were still the sons of Jacob. Remember, Israel is spiritually born men. Okay, if you get anything out of this teaching, this 3 years of study, get this. Israel is the spiritually born men, the Ezra, who are going to be the ones in the world. When Yeshua said, you must be born again, these are the men that he was talking about. Unless you're spiritually born, you go to the grave and you are not going to find eternal life. The good news is we can be heirs of Yehovah, his son. Oh my gosh, we've learned so many lies. Well, these men, the Amorites, the Canaanites, are seeing what's happening and they are terrified. But now we're going to circumcise the sons of Israel again, a second time, it says. Well, we're having a second great circumcision. Remember, the first time was when? Coming out of Egypt. That's right, Carrie. We did it just before we kept the Passover. We circumcised our men, ourselves, and all the men of our households, and then we drew near and kept the Passover and became as one born in the land, the Ezra. Well, he can't take flesh men and use them to fight a spiritual battle. He's got to make these men who failed, how come it was that these men didn't get circumcised on the 8th day? Oh my gosh! How could that happen? For 40 years, they didn't circumcise their son on the 8th day. I imagine some did. There must have been some who did. The Levites, I would assume, did. But you know what? They were mad. Yehovah kept them 40 more years in the wilderness and let them die in the wilderness. Were they ticked and just said, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it? I think they did. So now he's raised up another generation. Their sons, the same sons that the wicked men said we're going to die. You brought us out to kill our sons and our daughters. Those are the ones who lived. And they died. So now these men need to be circumcised. So Joshua made flint knives for himself and circumcised Israel's seed at the hill of foreskins. Must have been a lot of them. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them, all the people who came out of Egypt, who were males. All the people. They were talking about the people again. Ha-Adam, or no, Ha-Am. The people who came out of Egypt, who were males. All the men of war had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. For the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Egypt had not been circumcised. So the people that we're talking about are people who had not been circumcised. We're not talking about lady people. And Israel's seed walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people who were men and more who came out of Egypt were consumed because they did not obey the voice of Yehovah, to whom Yehovah swore that he would not show them the land which Yehovah had sworn to their fathers, that he would give us a land flowing with milk and honey. Oh, this is interesting. Where so much of the time it says Ha-Am, the people, Am is people. Ha-Am is the people. This happens to say the Ger. Isn't that interesting? For Israel's seed walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the Ger, all the nation, all the Ger. Oh, wow. That's almost an insult, isn't it? To all the Ger, who were the men of war who came out from Egypt, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of Yehovah, to whom Yehovah swore that he would show them the land which Yehovah had sworn to their fathers, that he would give us a land flowing with milk and honey. Then Joshua circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place. Raised up. Joshua raised them up in their place. For they were uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. Oh, how come that is so? So it was when they had finished circumcising all the people. Well, look at this. It still says goy. Ha goy. Isn't that interesting that it would say ha goy? What's up with that? That they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. Then Yehovah said to Joshua, this day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you. Therefore the name of the place is called Gilgal to this day. This is where I saw that about the rocks. This is the research that I had done to see that. Remember I said about the circle of the rocks? Here it is. This day, first of all, let's talk about this day. What day are we talking about? The day that they were circumcised. They have committed themselves to become Yehovah's people. They've come into covenant with him. They have left their old Egyptian ways behind them. This word, Gilgal, is this word down here, 1537. But this 1556 is Galal. Galal. Galal is this word right here, rolled. I have rolled away. I have Galal, the reproach of Egypt from you. Galal, rolled away. Well, so I did some research on Gilgal because I wanted to find out what did Gilgal mean, and it seems to mean roll or it means circle. Those are the two things that came up. Here it is. The name means circle or rolling. The place where Israel camped on entering the land of Canaan. Remember, that's the first place they went when they entered the land of Canaan. The name means circle or rolling. It was an important religious center for Israel during the times of Samuel and Saul. Okay, that's getting on to further history. 12 stones were set up there for 12 tribes. A great ceremony of circumcision was celebrated there, as was a great Passover feast. Well, that's where I got the idea that this was about a circle that was created, kind of a meeting place, if you will, is what it appears to me. And of course, we got the Ark of the Covenant, or the tabernacle set up there as well. Let's continue. Now, Israel's seed camped at Gilgal. What did they do at Gilgal? And kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at twilight on the plains of Jericho. They ate the produce of the land on the day after the Passover. Unleavened bread and parched grain on the very same day. This is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They're eating unleavened bread and parched grain. Parched grain. What grain would they be eating? This is the month of Aviv.
Barley.
Barley. Very good. That's right, Carrie. We're going to be eating barley. What does it mean to eat parched grain? I had to look it up. It's roasted. Could it be kind of popcorn? Or is it just toasted, roasted? Probably barley, since it had to be Aviv before we could have a Passover. Yeah, it's a month of Aviv. It's got to be barley. Parched grain. But notice, for the first time after we've crossed over, now we're eating the good of the land. What does that mean? Means if we don't take the land, we starve, doesn't it? The manna stopped. There's no more manna coming down. No, now we got to go get the land for ourselves to feed ourselves and our families. Of course, they were still on the other side, but they had crops. Remember, we took all that land from Moab, from Bashan. Well, let's say Sihon took it from Moab. We took it from Sihon. And we took all the land of Bashan. So all our families are still on the other side of the river. They're eating the good of that land, aren't they? They're eating the flocks. They got plenty of food. But now we're on this side. We don't have the food. We're getting the grain that's immediately around us. But we need to go get more. The manna ceased on that day after they had eaten the produce of the land. And Israel no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to pass when Joshua was in Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man, an ish, masculine noun, meaning man. Okay, look at, they put this in capital. Why do they put it in capital? Carrie, you know why they put it in capital. They put it in capital because they want to make it Yeshua. Okay, this is what we've been told. This is what we've been taught. Folks, don't go there. It's going to throw off everything. Put your Yeshua golden calf away and start learning Torah. Oh my gosh, the lies that we have been learned to replace the name of Yehovah with this other golden calf. Don't go there. And it came to pass when Joshua was in Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man stood opposite him, and his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you with us, or for our adversaries?" Here's what it said in Yasher 88. And it was the second month, on the first day of the month. Ooh, hear that? I always thought that we attacked. I don't know why I thought it. It was right here in Yasher. I underlined it in Yasher. Even put it in here and put it in bold letters. Second month, first day of the month. Wasn't right after the feast of Passover. I thought it was during the feast of Passover that we were marching around the city. I was wrong. It says second month, first day of the month. So here's this man coming up. And he says, Joshua says, "Are you with us or for our adversaries?" He says, "No, but a commander of the army of Yehovah, but as commander of the army of the host of Yehovah, I have come." You know, we always hear Yehovah of hosts. What do we think? You know, I guess for me, when I saw Yehovah of hosts, I always thought about angels coming with him, hosts of angels. But that's not the host. The host is the army of Israel. The Ezra men are the host, the spiritually born men, his Ezra men, his heir, the ones who are taking the land for themselves. And those men are bringing their ger and their servants along with them. But he's coming. This man who Yehovah has sent is coming to lead the army as a commander of the army. He's going to give Joshua instructions on how to win this coming battle with Jericho. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped. Oh, the words that we use that try to lead us in ways we want to. We, the translators, want to make this man Yeshua. Okay? Because they do that, they translate this word here. Where is it? Worshipped. This word right here. Worshipped. As, really, here's the word. Worshipped. So here it is, right here. Shaka. To depress, to prostrate, to bow down, to crouch, to fall down. This is what a servant does to his master. But we translate it as worship. Do you see a problem here? This is what happens by people who want to promote their theology and make things appear using capital letters. Remember, there's no capital letters in Torah. He says, and Joshua fell down on his face to the earth and bowed and said to him, what does Adonai? What does my master? Okay, they put my Lord. Capital L. It's a small L. What does my Lord, what does my master say to his servant? Look at this. This is Ruth. She fell down on her face, bowed down to the ground. This is the same word. What did I say that word was? Shakah. She shakah to the ground and said to him, why have I found favor in your eyes that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner and no Cree? Here's Abigail. And when Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly and quickly from her donkey, fell on her face before David. Oh, there it is. And bowed, shakah, down to the ground. Fell on her face and shakah, down to the ground. Bowed down to the ground. Here's yet another one. Then she arose. This is after he had sent servants to say, would you like to be my woman? She said, heck yeah. Then she arose, bowed, shakah, her face to the ground, and said, here is your maidservant, a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my master. I'm not even here to wash the feet of my master. I'm willing to wash the feet of the servants of my master. There's the extra mile girl. Remember, Rebecca was the extra mile girl. We talked about her. She was the extra mile girl. I'll not only feed you the water, I'm going to water your horses. I'm going to water your camels. That's what a woman of worth is like. She's an extra mile girl. And this is what Abigail was like. And this is why Abigail got David. She was willing to die for Nabal. Let his sin fall upon me. And here she is bowing down to David, prostrating herself, shakah, to David. This is what now this man is doing to the sent one of Yehovah. Okay, don't confuse him with Yehovah. If he's sent by Yehovah, he's in a sense, he is Yehovah, but he's not. He's the shakak. What he says is as if Yehovah says it. What he does is as Yehovah does it. What he gives is as if Yehovah gives it. So he's giving orders. It says now it further confuses it, because he says, then the commander of Yehovah's army said to Joshua, take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is holy. And Joshua did so. Well, what is this all about? As a sent one of Yehovah, he is him. And that demands respect. I'm surprised that it would go that far. Take off the feet of your sandals. We didn't see anything like that in Yasher at all, did we? This may be how each of Yehovah's set-apart men will be treated in the coming last days. Or perhaps this is a shadow picture. So I saw two things. One, as these set-apart servants, what we called them this morning, the Evadim, are set apart by Yehovah as his sent ones, they speak for him. The rod of their mouth, we talked about 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, is the words that come out. With those words, they destroy the wicked. So that's one way we can look about it. They are the representatives of Yehovah and therefore treated almost as Yehovah would be treated. Or there's another way to look at this. And this is something that I thought about yesterday. So I put, this is how, let me just fix each of Yehovah's set-apart servants will be treated in the coming last days. Or perhaps this is a shadow picture of the Elijah prophet. Remember, we see this Elijah prophet really only one time, one place, Malachi 4. People make a big deal about this Elijah prophet. I've often felt that the Elijah prophet is, in a sense, the prophet like Moses, the 144,000, the servants of Elohim. But maybe there is somebody who actually is going to be the spokesman for all these men on the earth. If there is, I'd guess it would be this man, the Elijah prophet. But this man, I put man, this Ish, speaks for Yehovah. He's not Yehovah. He speaks for Yehovah as his sent one to lead the armies. Well, this is the only time we ever see this guy. After he gives Joshua the instructions, we never see him again. Well, what kind of commander is that? I think he got us started in the right direction. Yeah, there's lots to talk about with this. So now we're getting ready to go to Jericho. Here's the instructions that he's going to give to Joshua. Now Jericho was securely shut up because of Israel's seed. None went out, none came in. And Yehovah said to Joshua, See, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king, and the mighty men of valor. I like this word, see. It's this word here, ra'ah. Ra'ah. Here it is. Oh, this is the word study definition. A verb meaning to see. Behold! It says it basically denotes to see with the eyes. It can also have the following derived meanings, all which requires the individual to see physically outside of himself. Again, I think this is what we're talking about when he says, behold. He says, look, see it in your mind. Jericho is yours. Its king. Its mighty men of valor. Remember, Jericho is what? Jericho is the city, I would call it the gateway city to the promised land. It is the place where armies cross, invading armies, and this city is a defensive city. Mighty men dwell there. But these people have just seen us cross over the Jordan River at flood stages, backed up the river all the way to Adam. How far was that? That was 20 miles. Backed up the water 20 miles. It started rising and rising and rising after we crossed the floodgate was opened. There's something you don't see every day, Maudie. They're terrified. Nobody's going in, nobody's going out. And now Yehovah says to Joshua, probably through this man, and Yehovah said to Joshua, it says, how do you say it? I think he said it through this man. See, behold, looky here. Get a glimpse in your mind. I have given Jericho into your hand. What wasn't in his hand yet? You shall march around the city, all your men of war, your ish of war. Here, let's make sure we know who we're talking about. There are no ladies among the battle. We always talked about when men go to war. It was Deuteronomy 21, or maybe it was 20. Go about men going to war. Ladies aren't in our camp. No ladies are in our camp. Can't be. There's no ladies going to war. It says the ish, the men of war. The ish of war. You shall go around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear their 7 trumpets. Remember, we were talking about the trumpets versus the shofars when we saw the trumpets in Yasher. And I suggested it was probably the 2 silver trumpets. I was wrong. Here's 7 priests blowing shofars. Shofarim, or shofar oat, plural form of shofar. 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And it shall come to pass, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpets, the shofar, that all the people, who the people? The Ezra men, all the people and the people with them shall shout with a great shout. Here it is. Here it is. Ruah. Don't confuse that with the word we were talking about up here. See, that's ra'ah. That's a different word. This is ruah. Call. Here's the call. All the people. Here's people. Ha people. All the people shall shout. This says shall shout a great shout. A great teruah. A gadol teruah. They shall shout a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat, and all the people shall go up, every man, every ish, straight before him. Then Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets. So the instructions that he was just given, now he is going to give those instructions to Israel. So first that man, this strange commander sent by Yehovah, gave him instructions. Now he's going to give the instructions to his people. Then Joshua son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 shofars of ram's horns before the ark of the covenant. And he said to the people, proceed and march around the city. Let him who is armed advance before the ark of Yehovah. So we got some men who are armed going ahead of the ark, and we're going to have some men who are armed going behind the ark. It's all about protecting the ark. And let him and around the city, and let him who is armed advance before the ark of Yehovah. So it was, when Joshua had spoken to the people, there it is again, the Ezra men, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before Yehovah advanced and blew the shofars, and the ark of the covenant of Yehovah followed them. Gotta remember to keep this up. The armed men went before the priests, who blew the shofars, and the rear guard came after the ark, while the priests continued blowing the trumpets, the shofars. Now Joshua commanded the people, saying, "You shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you." What does he say to you? Ruah. Until I say, shout, Ruah. Then, and he says, and ye shall Ruah. When I say Ruah, then you Ruah. So he had the ark of Yehovah circle the city, going round it once. And he came into the camp and lodged in the camp. Carrie and I were thinking, well, how long did it take for the ark to go around the city? A whole day? No, it didn't, because we went around 7 times in one day. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of Yehovah. Then the 7 priests, bearing 7 shofars of ram's horns before the ark of Yehovah, went on continually and blew with the shofars. And the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came after the ark of Yehovah, while the priests continued blowing the shofar. So again, we have armed men going before, armed men going after. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. Remember, this is happening when? 2nd month, sometime after the 1st day of the month. I'm guessing it's before 2nd Passover even. Remember, 2nd Passover is the 14th day of the 2nd month. So I'm guessing it's before then. And the 2nd day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. But it came to pass in the 7th day that they rose early, about the dawning of the day, and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day they only marched around the city 7 times. And the 7th time it happened, when the priest blew the shofar, that Joshua said to the people, Ruah! For Yehovah has given you the city. Same words. Ruah! For Yehovah has given you the city. This made me think. In the last days, where can I start with this? I want to go to Isaiah 8. You know, we are getting fear put into us every day. Not me. I don't listen to the news. I never hear the news. I don't know what the heck's going on. I don't care. It's not my news. This is my news. I know what's going to happen. I'm getting the word right from my Father. Isaiah 8. Look what it says here. Verse 12. Do not say a conspiracy concerning all that the people call a conspiracy, nor be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. For Yehovah of hosts, him you shall hallow. Let him be your fear Let him be your dread. These people shouted a great shout, and these walls came tumbling down. In the last days, we're going to see something similar. Let me go back. We're going to see something similar. Remember, I keep telling you about the two great shakings of the earth? The first one, we're going to see the mountains fall down, the valleys raise up, cities fall, the sun go dark, the moon go red. And the heavens, the stars in the heavens are going to diminish. That's the first great shaking of the earth. It's the one that's going to turn the world into a wilderness. Yehovah is going to raise up his people. And when the following Passover comes around, we're going to keep the Passover even though the world says, you can't keep the Passover. In fact, you can't even keep the Sabbath anymore. And if you do, we're going to come after you. Well, this is kind of where we're going to be at. The world is Jericho. The strength that is coming against us, Yehovah set apart men with a pillar of fire and smoke over us. They're going to come against us like a flood, it says in Revelation 12. I see that's going to happen. I see it in Torah. But when they do, is it possible that we're going to shout a great shout? And the whole world is going to be shook. Remember, we go about like a roaring lion. That roar is the shout that puts fear into the hearts of men. We have got a whole new set of Ezra men by the time they're coming after us again. When we all shout, is that going to be the time that the cities fall? The whole earth shakes? I wonder. Is this a shadow picture of what's going to happen in the last days? I put Jericho was the city that was guarding the river. The strength of the New World Order will fall in the same way when the earth is shook the first time and the whole world is turned into a wilderness and a desolation. Boy, my spelling is atrocious. We are not going into the wilderness. Yehovah is going to turn the whole world into a wilderness. But the places where he has placed us, those who came to us after the pillar of fire appeared above us, they're going to find safety there. Because they're with us, their houses aren't going to fall on their heads. Cities aren't going to fall on their heads. This is going to be disaster when these cities fall. Who can survive? And who survived in Jericho when those walls fell? Remember, these are big walls. 60, 70, 80 feet tall. Huge. Maybe more. Remember, this is the guardianship of this city and the New World Order and the strength of the New World Order. All their guns, all their stuff is their strength. And it's all going to go down. Somebody's asking about the future of in the future what will be Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah is going to be at the end of the tribulation. It's going to be. I've got a lot to say about Yom Teruah, but it has nothing to say about what we're talking about right now. So I'm not even going to address that question. You can read about Yom Teruah on my blog under the other feasts of Yehovah. I think it's what it's called. I've got a whole big thing about Yom Teruah. It all has to do with leading up to Yom Kippurim. Many things that we have to see. Are you trying to show me something there?
The time.
Oh, that's what you're showing me, the time. Oh, okay. All right, I guess I better get going. Carrie's telling me I'm running out of time. Let's continue then. Fell down flat, and they took the city, and they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young, old, ox, sheep, donkey, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said to the two men who had spied out the country, "Go to the harlot's house, and from there bring out the woman and all that she has, as you have sworn to her." Remember, they swore in Yehovah's name. And young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, and all she had. They brought her out with all her relatives and left them outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Only the silver and the gold, the vessels, the bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yehovah. And Joshua spared Rahab the harlot, her father's household, and all that she had. So she dwells in the land to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Well, don't build a theology saying here's a woman that is going to dwell alone without a man in her life. Folks, don't go there. Every woman of worth in Yehovah's kingdom is going to have a man in her life. Period. Then Joshua charged them at that time, saying, "Cursed be the man before Yehovah who rises up and builds this city, Jericho. He shall lay the foundation with his firstborn, and with his youngest son he shall set up its gates." Well, you know what? I love the fact that Yehovah always fulfills his word. Look what it says here. This is, it says, in the days of Hiel of Bethel built Jericho. He laid its foundations with Avarim, his firstborn, and his youngest son, Segub. He set up its gates according to the word of Yehovah, which he had spoken through Joshua, the son of Nun. I think this was another word that came out of Joshua's mouth, and as Yehovah's Shalach, his sent one, he confirmed his words. Remember, as the Shalach, he's speaking the words for Yehovah. Yehovah didn't tell him to do that, but he fulfilled his words because they were given to him through Joshua. Well, so much to learn, so little time, as I always say. Thank you for joining me today. This was our last lesson. Next week, we're going to start Genesis 1 all over again. Ooh, I can't wait to go through it a second time with all that we have learned under our belts. We've got lots to see and understand, and it's going to be especially good now that I can make videos of this as well. I want to make this something that generations, if Yehovah tarries, can watch and listen to and begin to understand and to know Yehovah. You know, that's what it's all about. Knowing Yehovah. There's lots of people who say they know his word, but they don't know Yehovah. They're still talking about the children of Israel. They don't have a clue what's going on. They don't know about the Ezra. They got Gentiles believing in Jesus, and now you're, oh, please, Father, forgive us. We're so lost in our dark, dark world. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next time when we begin Genesis 1. Thanks for coming.